Something shifted today, and deep down you felt it. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But it was real. A quiet moment, a small decision, a simple act that most people would overlook. Yet moments like that are often the exact turning points that change everything. Have you ever noticed how the biggest shifts in life rarely begin with fireworks? They begin with subtle choices. A moment of patience when anger would have been easier. A moment of restraint when ego wanted control. A moment of faith in the process of life when doubt was whispering in your mind. And today, whether you realized it or not, you stepped into one of those moments. Think about it for a second. Out of all the paths you could have taken today, you chose a different one. Maybe you held your tongue when you wanted to react. Maybe you showed kindness when no one was watching. Maybe you stayed disciplined when giving up would have felt more comfortable. These decisions may seem small, but small decisions carry enormous weight. Throughout history, philosophers and thinkers have pointed to a fascinating truth about life. Change rarely happens all at once. Instead, it builds quietly behind the scenes, like pressure forming beneath the surface of the earth. For a long time, nothing appears to happen. But eventually, that pressure reaches a point where the shift becomes unavoidable. That is the moment many people describe as a sudden breakthrough. But was it really sudden? Or was it the result of countless unseen choices that led to that moment? Today may have been one of those choices. One of those moments that tipped the scale. The world often teaches people to look only at big achievements, big victories, and big recognition. But life does not operate only on what is visible. The most important changes are often triggered by invisible actions that no one applauds. Imagine two people walking through the same challenges. One reacts with bitterness, frustration, and blame. The other responds with patience, reflection, and self-control. On the surface, the day might look identical for both of them. But internally, something very different is happening. One person is reinforcing cycles that keep them stuck. The other is quietly building momentum toward something greater. Which one do you think eventually experiences transformation? This is why many traditions, across cultures and belief systems, often emphasize character, intention, and awareness. Not because they guarantee instant rewards, but because they slowly reshape the direction of a person's life. And sometimes, after enough of those choices accumulate, the momentum becomes impossible to ignore. Opportunities appear, doors open unexpectedly. Situations shift in ways that seem almost too perfectly timed to be coincidence. People often call this a blessing, luck, alignment, or the result of unseen forces working behind the scenes. Different cultures use different language for it, but the underlying idea is similar. Actions guided by awareness tend to move life in a better direction. So ask yourself something honestly. What if the decision you made today was not random? What if it was the exact moment that accelerated everything that has been building quietly in your life? What if, without realizing it, you crossed a threshold that you have been approaching for a very long time? Because sometimes the universe of cause and effect moves faster than we expect. And when the right moment arrives, the shift does not ask for permission. It simply begins. There are moments in life when the pace of change suddenly feels different. For a long time, everything moves slowly, almost painfully slowly. Effort goes unnoticed. Discipline feels lonely. The results you hope for seem distant, like something that belongs to another chapter of life. And then, without warning, things begin to accelerate. Why does that happen? Many thinkers describe life as a system of cause and effect that operates far beyond what we can immediately see. Every action leaves a trace. Every intention shapes direction. Every response to difficulty quietly builds the foundation for what comes next. Most of the time, those effects remain hidden. They gather beneath the surface, forming a kind of invisible momentum. Think about the way water fills a reservoir behind a dam. Drop by drop, the level rises. At first, the changes are so small they are almost meaningless. But eventually, there comes a point where the pressure becomes powerful enough to release a surge of movement. Human progress often works the same way. For a long time, you might feel as if nothing is changing. You stay patient while others lose their composure. You keep working while others give up. You stay grounded while others chase distractions. Day after day, the effort feels quiet and unnoticed. But something important is happening in those moments. You are building internal strength. You are shaping your character. You are refining your focus. And the interesting thing about these invisible developments is that they do not disappear. They accumulate. Then one day, something shifts. Suddenly, the right opportunity appears. A conversation opens a door you did not expect. A problem that once blocked your path suddenly becomes manageable. From the outside, it looks like a sudden breakthrough. People might say you were lucky or that things simply worked out at the right time. But you know the truth is deeper than that. You remember the days when no one noticed your effort. You remember the quiet discipline it took to keep moving forward when nothing seemed to change. Those moments were not wasted. They were preparing the ground for the shift that is now beginning to appear. This is why patience is often described as one of the most powerful qualities a person can develop. Patience is not passive waiting. It is active endurance. It is the ability to keep aligning your actions with your values, even when the results have not arrived yet. And when patience is combined with awareness, something powerful begins to form. You start noticing patterns others overlook. You recognize opportunities that once passed you by. You begin to move through challenges with a different mindset. Instead of reacting emotionally to every obstacle, you start responding with clarity. This change in perspective alone can transform a person's path. Think about it. How many people lose momentum simply because they assume nothing is happening? They stop right before the moment when things were about to change. They abandon the process just before the pressure behind the dam was ready to release. But what if you did not stop? What if today's quiet action was proof that you are still moving forward when many others would have already turned back? That possibility changes everything. Because when momentum finally begins to move, it does not always arrive slowly. Sometimes it comes rapidly, as if all the quiet effort from the past suddenly decides to reveal its results at once. And when that moment arrives, the path ahead can transform faster than anyone expected, and when that moment of acceleration begins, it often feels almost unreal. For so long, you were operating in silence, moving carefully, making choices that only you truly understood. Others might not have noticed. Some may have even questioned why you stayed patient when results were not immediately visible. But now something different is unfolding. Opportunities that once felt distant begin appearing closer than before. Situations that used to resist your effort start shifting in subtle ways. Conversations take unexpected turns. Doors that seemed firmly closed begin to open just enough for you to step through. Why does this happen? Because momentum, once built, has a way of carrying forward. Think of it like pushing a heavy object up a hill. At the beginning, the effort feels overwhelming. Every inch requires determination. There are moments when stopping seems easier than continuing. But once the object reaches the top and begins moving down the other side, the movement becomes natural. The same force that once resisted you now helps carry things forward. Life often mirrors that pattern. There are seasons of preparation, and there are seasons of visible movement. Many people experience the first stage, but give up before reaching the second. They assume the effort is pointless because they cannot see the progress forming behind the scenes. Yet those who remain steady long enough eventually reach the point where progress begins to reveal itself. This is why a single decision can sometimes unlock a series of changes. Not because that one moment created everything, but because it was the final step in a long chain of actions that had been building quietly over time. Consider the possibility that what you did today was one of those final steps. Maybe it was a moment of self-control when you refused to react emotionally. Maybe it was an act of honesty when cutting corners would have been easier. Maybe it was choosing growth instead of comfort, reflection instead of blame, patience instead of frustration. Small moments like these might seem insignificant in isolation, but when they accumulate, they create a powerful shift in direction. And direction is everything. A person walking 1 degree differently today will end up in a completely different place months or years later. That is the quiet power of consistent alignment. It does not always produce immediate rewards, but it steadily reshapes the path ahead. Now imagine that the path has already started adjusting. Imagine that the environment around you is slowly responding to the internal changes you have been making. Your mindset becomes clearer, your decisions become stronger, your focus sharpens, and as those internal qualities strengthen, the opportunities that match them begin to appear. This is not something mystical or dramatic. It is simply the natural outcome of growth meeting the right moment. But when it happens, it can feel incredibly fast. One day things appear still. The next day, movement begins. Conversations shift. Timing aligns. Progress suddenly seems possible in ways it never did before. And the fascinating part is that many people will only notice the moment of visible success. They will not see the quiet discipline, the patience, and the choices that made it possible. Yet you know those moments existed, and perhaps that is why today feels different. Because deep down, you can sense that the long period of silent preparation may finally be giving way to something new. Now the real question begins to emerge. What do you do when life starts responding to the choices you have been quietly making? Many people wait their entire lives hoping for change. But when the moment of movement arrives, they hesitate. Not because they are incapable, but because they have grown used to the slower rhythm of waiting. Suddenly, when doors begin to open, the mind asks a surprising question. Am I truly ready for this? But readiness rarely arrives as a perfect feeling. Readiness is often revealed through action. It shows itself when someone chooses to step forward, even while uncertainty still exists. The truth is that no moment of transformation comes with complete clarity. There will always be unknowns. There will always be questions about what lies ahead. Yet the people who move forward are not those who eliminate uncertainty. They are the ones who learn to walk with it. Think back to the earlier seasons of your life when progress felt invisible. During those times, you were developing something far more valuable than quick success. You were building stability within yourself. The patience you practiced, the discipline you protected, the awareness you developed during quiet moments, those qualities were shaping the person you are becoming. And those qualities matter now more than ever. Because when momentum begins, it tests the same character that created it. Opportunity can either strengthen a person or distract them, depending on how grounded they remain. This is why reflection becomes so important during periods of change. Ask yourself simple but powerful questions. What kind of person do I want to remain as life begins to move faster? Will I stay patient when things improve? Will I remain thoughtful when recognition appears? Will I continue making decisions based on awareness rather than impulse? Moments of rapid change often reveal a deeper truth about human nature. They show whether someone built their foundation on temporary excitement or on lasting principles. Do not multitask. The encouraging part is that the quiet decisions you have already been making suggest something important about your direction. You did not wait for perfect circumstances to start improving yourself. You did not rely on recognition or praise to guide your actions. Instead, you continued developing qualities that most people overlook. That kind of consistency does not disappear when progress begins. In fact, it becomes even more valuable. Imagine the path ahead as a road that is finally beginning to clear. The obstacles that once slowed you down are gradually losing their grip. The distance between effort and result becomes shorter. The same focus that once felt lonely now becomes the advantage that guides your next steps. And perhaps the most powerful realization of all is this: the moment you are entering did not appear randomly. It grew from the countless quiet decisions you made when no one was watching. So if today felt different, trust that feeling, not as a promise of instant perfection, but as a signal that movement has begun. Life often rewards steady character in ways that are not immediately visible. But when the right moment arrives, the shift can feel surprisingly fast. And the next chapter of your journey may already be unfolding, one decision at a time. There is something powerful about realizing that life responds to consistency. Not instantly, not always in ways that are obvious, but over time it begins to reflect the direction a person repeatedly chooses. The small decisions, the quiet restraint, the moments of reflection instead of reaction, these choices slowly reshape the path ahead. And when that path begins to open, the experience can feel almost surreal. You may notice that situations which once drained your energy no longer affect you the same way. People who misunderstood you may start to see you differently. Opportunities that once seemed out of reach may begin appearing in unexpected places. It is not that the world suddenly changed overnight. It is that your alignment with your own values has become stronger. That internal alignment changes how you move through life. Think about how different a day feels when your mind is clear and your intentions are focused. Decisions become easier. Distractions lose their power. Instead of constantly reacting to everything around you, you begin choosing your responses more carefully. That shift alone can transform the quality of your experiences. But there is another interesting effect that follows. When a person develops clarity and discipline, they often begin attracting different kinds of circumstances. Not because the universe is favoring one person over another, but because their actions start placing them in environments where growth becomes possible. For example, a person who values patience begins to approach challenges with calm thinking. That calm thinking leads to better decisions. Better decisions lead to better outcomes. And those outcomes open doors that were previously invisible. What looks like sudden fortune is often the result of improved direction. So if today felt like a turning point, it may be because your direction has quietly shifted over time. Every moment of reflection strengthened your awareness. Every moment of discipline strengthened your focus. Every moment of restraint strengthened your character. and those qualities create momentum. Now imagine continuing forward with that same mindset. Not chasing recognition, not rushing results, but simply maintaining the steady alignment that has already brought you this far. The interesting thing about momentum is that once it begins, it often builds upon itself. One opportunity leads to another. One moment of clarity leads to a better decision. One improvement in character strengthens the next step forward. Before long, the path that once felt uncertain starts becoming clearer. But perhaps the most important realization is this: the real transformation was never only about external rewards. It was about the internal growth that made those rewards possible in the first place. Anyone can experience a moment of luck, but lasting progress usually belongs to those who develop the mindset to sustain it. That is why the quiet choices you make today still matter, even if change has already begun. They protect the foundation you have built. They ensure that growth continues rather than fading away. So as you move forward from this moment, remember what brought you here: awareness, patience, discipline, the willingness to choose growth when comfort would have been easier. Those qualities are not temporary. They are the reason the path ahead is beginning to open. And if you continue walking with the same steady focus, the next phase of your journey may reveal possibilities you once thought were far beyond your reach.